You know me as the host of the Too Busy to Eat show, but I'm also founder and CEO of Too Busy to Eat, the protein bar company. I make what I feel is the healthiest and best tasting protein bar on the market. So now it developed from my own frustration of not being able to find a bar that tasted good and that was extremely healthy, that I could have maybe multiple times a day if I was really busy, or I could feed my kids and not feel guilty about what they ate. So I created this bar with grass-fed whey protein, no more than 3 grams of sugar, which is all naturally occurring, and it's gluten-free, non-GMO, the list goes on. So don't take my word for it. I want you to try them. And I want to give you incentive to try them. So I'm going to give you 20% off your first order. You can get a sample bag of bars, or you can get a whole box, whatever you want. Go to my website, toobusytoeat.com. Not hard to remember. Show, the company. And enter the promo code TBTE Show. TBTE Show. Actually, it's a discount box when you check out, and you'll get 20% off your first order, no matter how small or large. So go to the website now, try them out, and then let me know what you think. Welcome to the Too Busy to Eat show. Today we have Dr. Thomas Cowan with us. Dr. Cowan is a longtime holistic physician living in San Francisco. He is the author of How and Why to Eat More Vegetables. He's also the primary author on the Fourfold Path to Healing, and he co-authored a book with the famous Sally Felon of the Nourishing Traditions book. And that book is the Nourishing Traditions book of baby and child care. So Dr. Cowan has a tremendous background. He also has a new family-owned business called Dr. Cowan's Garden, and he's getting the right vegetables, the healthy vegetables to people in just amazing ways. So let's get to the show. Well, welcome, Dr. Cowan. I am so excited you take the time to be on the show. I know you've got a wealth of knowledge, and I'm excited to hear it. So welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right. Yes. Now, so I gave the intro. I gave everybody an overview of who you are. But why don't you give us a little insight on the story of how you got to where you are today?
So the way I would put it is I grew up always with the idea that I was going to have to be a doctor.
Okay.
I put it like that because I actually wanted no part of it. I didn't like the way they think, and I didn't like the way medicine was done, although I didn't know anything about it. I just knew I didn't want any part of it. But I ended up trying to sort of escape, and so one of the things I did was went to Swaziland in the Peace Corps to teach gardening for 2 years. And interestingly enough, living in a mud hut in Swaziland for 2 years, I ran across a way of thinking about health and medicine and food that made me think, oh, if I could be this kind of doctor, I could do this. I couldn't be a doctor who gives drugs and I thought was sort of a salesman for pharmaceuticals, but I could be a doctor who asked people how their life was and then said, there might be a better way to go about this, in particular around food. And that was in 1977. Wow. So it's been a while.
Yeah. So that started, your love for gardening and that drive and your philosophy, the way you think about health and medicine, it started early on. That's before. Yeah.
I wouldn't say I've not eaten a non-organic food since 1977, because obviously I've been on trips and I've had certain occasions, but I would say the percentage is probably 98% since 1977.
So you are one of the
old timer.
Yes. Before it was like, before you could go to Costco and get organic foods, you were doing it way before then.
I was riding my bicycle to co-ops in everywhere I lived.
That's fantastic. Well, it's pretty neat. It's pretty. I love to hear that story of where it was just a passion. From a young age, it's not something that just popped up. This is something that you've kind of lived and breathed for your whole life.
My whole life.
That's awesome. And so that, talking about gardening, you've written actually a couple books and co-authored another book. But your one book, How and Why to Eat More Vegetables. I mean, it's very fitting right now to talk a little bit about that. I got your a copy sent to me, which I'm very excited about. And I've been going through it. It's fantastic. Could you tell us a little bit about how that came about and then kind of the core principles of it?
So, I tell people that the most important decision you ever have to make about health is it true that modern Americans have the best health of any human beings who've ever lived? Because if you think that the way we eat and the way we live and the medicines we take produces the best health outcomes, then God bless you, keep doing it. But that's not been my experience. I read the work of Weston Price in the Peace Corps. I found out that there were people who lived long and healthy lives, had no dental problems, no health problems, no heart disease, no cancer. This is corroborated over and over again by anthropologists, by missionaries, by explorers, by the U.S. military settling the West and studying the Native Americans. There was a better way to do this.
Yeah.
So I've decided to try to dissect the details of what these people actually did. And I came out with that they had basically 3 food groups. And that if you know food groups, you can understand that all of these people ate the same food. So food group 1 was food from animals. So some people ate buffalo, and some people ate fish, and some people ate raw milk, grass-fed, fermented dairy products. And essentially, those are all the same. And through the work of a lot of people, the paleo movement, the Weston Price movement, Sally Fallon, Nourishing Traditions, we actually now have reasonably good quality animal foods available.
Yes.
You can not quite as good as the wild fish of the Native Americans or the buffalo, but there's a lot of good farmers and ranchers, and you can get wild fish, and we've got that kind of down pretty well. So that's food group 1. Food group 2 was foods from seeds.
Okay.
And that includes heirloom grain, not modern hybridized wheat, but heirloom grain. Some people ate native corn, and some people had tree nuts, cashews, almonds, apricots, whatever.
Right.
So there was always some seed group in this. The seeds were always, of course, organically grown in diverse ecosystems, all that stuff, which everybody knows about now. And the seeds were soaked and sprouted and all these kind of things. And again, that has become popular because of Weston Price Foundation, Nourishing Traditions, Paleo, people like you. People know about seeds and they eat nuts and all that stuff.
Right.
Now, the third group is vegetables. And I would say vegetables/fruit. Typically, native people, indigenous people had about 80% vegetables, 20% fruit.
Right.
And what I found out was that the typical native healthy diet had 120 vegetables per year and about 10 to 15 per day.
Wow.
And that's in contrast to the modern American diet, which is maybe 8, and that includes ketchup and French fries. And even the paleo diet, which includes maybe 20.
Right.
And not only does it only include 20, but it includes 20 vegetables that were actually not around in the paleo era. Like sometimes if I want to be a kind of a smart aleck about it, I'll show up a picture of buffalo bull back fat, who was a famous Native American chieftain who lived a long life and his people were healthy and studied. He didn't eat broccoli and romaine lettuce for lunch.
No.
And it's interesting that people are calling that paleo food,
right?
Even though it's not. So what were these 120? They were, and even what is the role of vegetables in the diet? It's like vitamin pills. We don't eat kale or moringa leaves or ashitaba or carrots or beets or wild carrots for proteins and fat. That's the role of animal products. Right. We don't even eat them for calories or carbohydrates. That's the role of seeds. We eat them because they're loaded with antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, unpronounceable words that prevent the plant from getting sick and humans from getting sick. And so the best strategy is diversity, up the wazoo. Diversity in colors, plant types, roots, leaves, fruits, flowers, red, orange, yellow, white, et cetera, everything you can imagine. Annuals, perennials, wild, cultivated, growing on the top of the tree and in the bottom of the earth. Everything you can think of. Because all these plants are living beings that have their own strategy, that make their own phytonutrients, and it's too complicated to figure out which is the best for you. So eat a little bit of all of them and you'll be good.
And that's the biggest part of that. The variety reason, you could stick, people want to get their vegetables in, so they're sticking like 3 vegetables, but the variety is going to be able to get that whole range of the phytonutrients and all the
Exactly.
And you don't miss out. Yeah.
So being who I am, of course, because I've been doing this for a while, I decided to eat 15 a day and 120 a year. The problem was, I spent maybe one day foraging wild vegetables, and it took 3 hours to get this much. And I said, there's got to be a better way. And so I started growing perennials and annuals and this one and that one. And next thing you know, I've got 40, which is a third of the way there.
Yeah.
Pretty good, except it was taking 2 hours a day to chop vegetables and cut them and steam them. And, and I also thought about it from my primary emphasis, which was I'm a doctor, so I got to tell people. And the model of telling people, okay, you've got to eat 10 wild vegetables a day and cut up, for 2.5 hours. I thought I would end up with 3 patients at the end of my career.
Right.
And that I don't think was a good model. So
no.
I kept plugging away. And, I would eat soup in the morning with 6 vegetables and stir fries and salads and, all different ways.
And just get any way you can get those vegetables in.
Ferment them, anything.
And then, so nourishing traditions that played a role. I mean, I was really excited because I have it on my shelf, and it's something I've turned to many times and been through. But you actually worked with Sally Felon and co-authored another book.
Right. Sally and I was one of the founding board members of the Weston Price Foundation. And whenever we have our annual meeting and Sally raised her hand, how many people have been to 10 meetings? And Sally and I are the only one who've been to all of the meetings. So out of that connection, we've been friends for almost 20 years. Right. And we wrote a book called The Fourfold Path of Healing. And then we wrote a book called Nourishing Traditions for Baby and Child Care.
Right.
Applying all those principles to raising children and all that stuff.
Well, that's all. I mean, to be part, you've laid your foundation, but with the combination of what she's done, that's pretty powerful.
Right. Sally has single-handedly revolutionized the food scene in the United States. And that may sound like hyperbole or exaggeration, but frankly, it isn't. The fermented vegetables, which you see everywhere, kombucha, coconut oil, grass-fed butter, all that started with Sally.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And that's the truth. And so I helped her, okay, Sally, that's good. I didn't really do much, but you need me to do much.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying now is that the vegetable part needed its own revolution.
Yes.
Because I have nothing against broccoli and romaine lettuce. I eat it. It's part of my 120 I eat. Of course, all properly grown, all that stuff. But that's not a diverse vegetable diet.
Right.
So, with Sally's encouragement, I set out to make the new revolution. That's a bit of a, arrogant thing to say maybe, but that was the goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you saw the need and you went after it like she did.
How do you allow myself, because in a way I did it for myself. I couldn't do it without. And so then I went to this restaurant, and at the same time I'm given a garden about an acre in Napa. I could sort of grow whatever I want. And I go to this restaurant and they have 60 different vegetable powders that they use not for nutritional reason, but because they make the food taste so good.
Right.
You put beet powder in ice cream or beet powder in oatmeal, and you're not just eating oatmeal now, you're eating oatmeal and beets, and you put some winter squash and ashitaba roots and whatever you've got. And now you've got 15 vegetables with no more work than some people take to open a box of cereal.
Which is amazing. And so that's a great lead in to talk about. I love the story of how this is part of the story. It evolved over time of you trying to figure out yourself, but then how was the Dr. Cowan's garden bird born in the end?
So basically 3 things happened at once. One, I was given a garden. I don't own it, but I was given it to you. Right. At 2, I saw a rack or a picture of a rack of 60 different powders and tasted them and said, no matter what, this makes my food taste better.
Yeah.
Grilled fish with charred eggplant powder is better than grilled fish without charred eggplant. That's, and oatmeal with beet powder is better than oatmeal without beet powder.
Right.
And third, I found out about Mirin jars. Because I was afraid that if you put powders in jars, it would degrade and lose its taste, aroma, and nutritional quality. And I heard there was these purple jars, the thick purple jars. And the story of them is that because they shield out most of the wavelengths, except UVA and some far infrared, that things don't degrade in there.
Right.
And I, of course, said, yeah, right. I tried it. So I put a cherry tomato in a mason jar and a cherry tomato in a Mirin jar and left it on the counter. 2 months later, the cherry tomato in the mason jar was mush and moldy and stung.
Right.
And around 6 months later, you could still eat the cherry tomato in the Mirin jar. I didn't because that would ruin the experiment. It's hard and flavorful. And I said to myself, okay, you can actually preserve the flavor and the freshness and the aroma, and therefore the nutritional value. It might even, and it sounds a little weird, and I don't know if it's even true, but it might actually make it better the longer you sit in the jar.
Right.
Because you're exposing it to these healing wavelengths. Yeah. It's like blue light therapy.
For vegetables.
And fine. I don't know if that's true, but I can tell you can let them sit for a year and it smells like pepper salt.
Wow. That's amazing.
And that clinched it for me that I could do this. So I go to Cape Cod, my family's there, and I said, look, here's these jars. I think people would like to buy these. My sons are much more savvy about business and economics. And they said, well, what are you going to do about it? I said, nothing. I just think of stuff, and so they decided to make a business out of it.
Wow, that is fantastic. So, how do you? What's the process? You have how many different vegetables do you have? How does it get from garden to consumer to me?
So there's 2 parts of this. One is the real interesting ones for us are like perennial vegetables. Okay. And, we're not talking about just any old tomato salt. We're talking about Dr. Cowan chooses the highest lycopene tomato that's ever been bred. And we're not talking about GMO tomatoes. We're talking about farmers saying, oh, that tomato looks better. Let's grow that seed. So I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with GMO, but I'm okay with farmers saying this plant is better than this plant. Let's save the seeds. So we have a whole line of stuff that literally I grow. Jose does a lot of the hard work.
Okay.
Like yesterday, I planted 400 seedlings.
Oh my gosh!
Asher helped and Linda helped, and
right.
Other people.
But it is a family. You're a family operated. You're talking about you guys are doing the work.
We're doing the work. And so we have a kitchen, and we have a worker who helps us with this. And We basically process the food that we would like to eat it.
Okay.
So, I don't think you should eat raw kale, because kale goes through a stage when it gets greener and more nutrients are more bioavailable after you blanch it for like a minute.
Right. Okay.
And so that's the time to eat it. Not raw, not soggy, just lightly cooked. Get it out of the water, put it in the dehydrator, make it into powder, put it in mirin jars.
Wow. Okay.
That's how we do it. We actually, believe it or not, we bake the pumpkins. And we're not talking about, the way I think of these things is I ask myself, who knows the most about pumpkins?
Right.
Hopi Indians.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I get Hopi Indian pumpkin.
That's awesome. So you get the best of the best.
We get the best of the best. We bake it.
Yep.
There's other powders, and they just do raw pumpkin.
Right.
I don't know about you, but first of all, I'm not eating raw pumpkin. It doesn't smell good. It doesn't taste good. Ours, you can literally, we bake it, scoop out the flesh, spread it on a dehydrator.
Wow.
And then you can make pumpkin pie right from that.
Right. Right.
Now, we've fortunately or unfortunately gotten big enough now that we can't actually make all the vegetables from our own powders, our own garden.
Right. Right.
Because we that's how we started. But so we go to local farms, pay them to, can you grow tree collards for us?
Yes.
We get wild harvested nori from the most pristine areas of the Bay Area, the Mendocino coast.
Yes.
We get local organic, certified organic, hopefully small, family-run farms.
Yeah.
We have a facility near us that can do exactly the way we want.
Right.
Or the sort of bigger runs. But we're there, and they do it how we want to do it.
Right. You're overseeing the whole thing, making sure it goes. Yeah. Yeah.
And so some of our things are only what I grew, and and some of them are we just had to make more. So you grow 10,000 pounds of pumpkins.
And that's a good problem to have, because you're reaching more people. I mean, that's
reaching more people, but it's the same stuff.
Yeah.
Same kind of varieties.
Right.
It's, as we get better at it, we'll actually have literal contracts with farmers.
Right.
Because one of the missions that we have, there's nothing that's made me happier in my career. I love when people feel better because of this.
Yeah.
But I really love when a farmer says to me, because of you, I can make a living.
That is awesome. Yeah.
That to me makes me think that was a good day to get out of bed today.
That's great.
Because these guys do either biodynamics or permaculture, or, we're talking, they care for the earthworms.
Right. Yes. And
that's what we're after.
Sustainable farming, getting that. You mentioned that in your book about how the soil, you do the traditional farming, you're improving, these farmers are improving the land. They're making it better. And, our normal farming now is just destroying our land.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The question at the end of the day was, are there more earthworms and more nutrients and more organic matter today than there were last year?
Right.
If that's the case, I want your stuff.
That's great.
That's it.
That's great. That's well, that's fantastic. I mean, so how do you, now the mixes, are they, do you have one mix that has, how do you choose what's in each mixture?
So, right. I mean, I grew up in my professional life around anthroposophy and biodynamics and the whole threefold concept that a plant, it has three fundamental parts: the root part, the leaf and stem part, and the fruit and flower part. And if you're going to eat a whole plant, you should eat some of each of those every day.
Okay.
So every day you have to cut beets, except it stains your hands red. And then you can't go to work and all this stuff. So we put 2 roots and 2 leaves and 1 or 2 fruits in a blend, and we call it Threefold blend.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, so you've gotten
the spectrum of the plant world in one powder. Some of them are like, that's sort of more nutritional as opposed to charred eggplant, which is more sort of culinary.
Right.
Not that it doesn't have nutritional value, because it does.
It does, yeah, sure.
But
it tastes good.
Really good fish.
Yeah. There's some things you're going to put in your blend, and there's some things you can use to sprinkle on your fish or whatever. Yeah.
Or eggs with tomato salt.
Right.
That's really good.
But with the powders, you're getting in today's modern world, the kind of unrealistic expectation to get 120. I mean, you can do it, but like you said, it was taking so much work. But with the powders, now you have an opportunity to actually get that done. I mean, you can get those in. That's awesome.
And just to be clear, I am not saying people shouldn't eat fresh vegetables.
Right.
I eat fresh vegetables every single day. I had 6 for breakfast this morning because we have a garden. We went to the garden today, and I like vegetables. I eat them every day.
Right.
But I still added horseradish powder to my eggs.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, but you're diversifying. You're getting that word you used earlier, diversify. I mean, you're going to be able to get that big range, because of the powders. You're able to get so much more vegetables in your diet. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
And it goes along with something that's been a backbone of my practice in the way I think for 30 years, which is we're not really smart enough to know what you're supposed to get from horseradish or kale. I know it's in there somewhere. I don't know if it's got to do with the mixture or whatever. I just know I should get good kale and good horseradish.
Right.
And my body will take care of the rest.
Right.
I don't want to micromanage the thing. It doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. And it's hard to test the effects of just that one vegetable over a long period of time. So diversify, get it all in.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to eat sulforaphane by itself as a chemical. I get that sulforaphane is a chemical in broccoli and horseradish and chard and vegetables like that has anti-cancer effects.
Right.
But I don't want to just take a pill of sulforaphane. I don't know how that works. I don't know what my body's going to do with it. No. I'll eat chard.
Right. And get the real stuff. Yeah.
Get the real stuff. Yeah. The plant is smarter than a chemist.
Absolutely. I love it. I mean, it's also, for me, it's motivating, because I love vegetables myself, but I'm not getting the diversity you're talking about. And so I will be one of your number one customers. I'm very excited about that. So if, the show geared towards busy people, if you could tell that busy person just one piece of advice to get healthier, to improve their health. I know you have a lot of knowledge, but is there one thing you could get somebody started on to get healthier?
I mean, if they're that busy, they should reevaluate.
Slow down.
Slow down and live a life that makes sense to them.
Right. So that's the biggest, for a busy person. Yeah. Okay.
And a life without contact with the soil and the water and the air. I mean, to me, that's not a life I want to live.
Right.
I would garden even if I didn't want to eat the stuff.
Right.
Just because I like seeing, how does this grow and what do you have to do for this? And, what eats this? And
right.
I just think it's fun.
Yes. Therapeutic and healthy. And
I mean, you get out in the sun and there's birds come around and, so you got to have that as part of your life.
Yeah. If
you're going to an office and sitting in a computer, 12 hours every single day, you got to rethink that.
Right. Or figure out how to get out and change that. Yeah.
And if you want another thing, get some powders from us.
Get the powders. Yes. And that's a great lead. And so the best way to get those powders is drcowansgarden.com. It will be in the show notes. I encourage you to get it. I'll be going there. This is, I really can't thank you enough. I love your insights. I love your history you've had with gardening and vegetables from the very beginning. And I really thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today.
I really appreciate, Greg. You did a great job with the interview too. It's really, you have a very sweet and informed way of communicating with people, which I really appreciate.
Thank you very much. Well, you were very easy to interview, so it was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.